Hello. Again, this is a devotional commentary on Isaiah by you know who, and it's available for free online at Academia Edu, www.academia.edu. You can download it free, and I'm going to bring to you Isaiah chapter 8. Isaiah is given a writing task by the Lord in this chapter. He is to write on a tablet the words, and here are the words, swift, he says. He has to write, swift is the booty, speedy is the prey. And that's in verse 1. This writing had to be done in the presence of two faithful witnesses for testimony that the Lord selected. So he selected Uriah, the priest, and Zechariah, the son of Jeberechiah. Verse 2. Some interesting points are involved here. If this Uriah is the same Uriah who built the heathen altar copied from the Assyrian fashion at Damascus for King Ahaz after 727 BC, then Isaiah wrote this tablet prior to that date when faithful Uriah became unfaithful Uriah in 2 Kings 16 verse 10 to 11. The second point is that Zechariah was probably the great-grandfather of the prophet Zechariah. Jeberechiah was the grandfather of Zechariah, and his child was probably Iddo, whose son Berechiah was the father of the prophet Zechariah in Zechariah 1 verse 1. They're all kind of connected. Isaiah then approached next to his wife, who is called the prophetess, and she conceived and gave birth to a son. And the Lord gave the name Maher Shalal Chasbas. The agglutinating, glue things together is called agglutinating. That action, if you glue things together. Agglutinating. Stringing. Like beads. Stringing. Of words together like beads. In one block. Like this. In Maher Shalal Chasbas. Is a characteristic of the Sumerian syntax and grammar. Isaiah was a learned man who knew Akkadian well, I think. Akkadian also uses some Sumerian loanwords and expressions. They both wrote on clay tablets. Clay. With like nails. Written with like nails. And there are grammars written. And dictionaries, and it's a fascinating language to learn. Dead languages, of course, they are not alive anymore. Nobody speaks it or uses it. But in those days, it was very popular, and probably before 724 BC, the boy of Isaiah was born. Since before he could speak, the quote, the wealth of Damascus and the spoil of Samaria will be carried away before the king of Assyria, referring to the fall of Samaria 723 to 721 BC by Shalmaneser V. The Lord reiterated why the punishment was in process over Israel, verse 5. The remnant weed has rejected the gently flowing waters of Shiloah and rejoice, which is an aqueduct, that a channel that from the outside of the city into the city that was dug there, the waters of Shiloah. So sorry, I got it wrong. Hezekiah is later. The Shiloah, the waters of Siloam. This is Shiloah. It is not a reference to that specific water, the aqueduct. It could be that it is just the fountain, referring to the fountain outside, that was gently flowing outside the city before the channel was made by Hezekiah. From that, maybe from this, and rejoice in Rezin. They rejected the gently flowing waters of Shiloah, and rejoice in Rezin and the son of Ramaliah, which is to Syria and Ephraim. Their fascination with Aram, this is Aramean area, and Pekah of Israel led them to their punishment. This was in the days of Ahaz in 727 BC, when Ahaz went to Damascus to pay for Tiglath-Pileser III money, because the Assyrian king came, he paid money, and then he copied the sketch and diagram of the altar of the heathens, the pagans. He copied it. Oh, so beautiful, I want to bring it to the temple of the Lord. Now behold, the Lord is about to bring to them the strong and abundant waters of the river Euphrates. Verse 7. And that is Tiglath-Pileser III. Quote, even the king of Assyria and all his glory. Verse 7b. It will come into Judah and pass through, quote, and the spread of its wings will fill the breadth of your land, O Immanuel, which is, quote, Christ, your land. Write it with a capital, because it's Immanuel's land is, O Immanuel, Christ, the wings of this empire will cover over Judah. Why is it important? Why is it, oh Immanuel? Oh Immanuel. Why does it suddenly jump to Christ many years later? I'll tell you why. You know why? Because Aramean area, the Aramean was in Syria, and their capital was Damascus, and that's where the copy was made. That's where the Assyrian king came to take it over, and that's where he had to go and pay tribute, and that's where he copied the pagan altar of the Assyrians. Why they copied before they copied the gods and habits, religions of Syria for themselves already. Before that. That's why they were punished. But now here is the thing. Amos, who was before Isaiah, Amos wrote, kind of the same time as Isaiah. Amos wrote, and he was a northern prophet, he wrote in Isaiah 5, I think it's Isaiah 5, Isaiah 5 verse 7 or 17, he wrote about Damascus. He quoted and he cited from Damascus. But that verse is cited in the New Testament in the description by Luke in Acts, when Stephen was in 34. In 34, when Stephen was stoned, he, in his sermon that he was preaching, he was citing from Amos before, Amos 5, that speaks about Damascus. And the word Stephen used, and Luke heard it, his sermon, and he wrote down exactly what Stephen said. Stephen said, you know what? Damascus is Babylon. Damascus is Babylon. So for Stephen, Damascus is Babylon in the Aramean time. Damascus is Babylon. Then Tiglath-Pileser came and grabbed it, and he became the new empire. Now Nineveh became Babylon. And there are cuneiform texts by a lady with the name of Stephanie Dalley. She's from, I think, Oxford University. And she wrote on the cuneiform tablets indicating that Nineveh is also Babylon, and every empire before that, capital city, was also Babylon. So now what is the Babylon of Babylon? Well, Babylon. What is the Babylon of Medo-Persia? Maybe Susa or Persepolis. What is the Babylon of Greece? Athens. What is the Babylon of Rome? Of the Romans? Rome. And in 1 Peter, he actually said, Peter said, Rome is Babylon in the New Testament. So what is the Vatican? Babylon. Now what is the empire of the US? Babylon. Is it Washington? Or is it New York? Even the king of Assyria and all his glory, it will come into Judah and pass through and spread of its wings will fill the breadth of your land, O Immanuel Christ, verse 8. This world empire was to colonize all peoples after breaking them. Be broken, O peoples, and be shattered, and give ear, all remote places of the earth. Verse 9a to b. Even though nations will militarily prepare against Assyria, it would not succeed. Verse 9c and d. They will devise a plan, but it will not succeed. Verse 10. The reason is that with the remnant seed, God is with them. God is with us. Quote, unquote. Which is the equivalent of Immanuel, or the Christ promised to come, mentioned in verse 8c. Isaiah said, and this is what he said, that this is what the Lord told him, and the Lord instructed him to be not like the remnant wheat, but like the remnant seed, verse 11. The identification of the remnant wheat is then given. The remnant wheat says, quote, a conspiracy, end of quote. But the remnant seed should not share this view, verse 12a. Remnant seed should not fear what the remnant wheat fear, verse 12b. The remnant seed should regard as holy the Lord, verse 13a. Not politics. The Lord shouldn't be the remnant seed, end of quote. Seeds fear, not like the remnant wheat who fear politics, verse 13b. The Lord becomes a sanctuary to the remnant seed, but the remnant wheat likes the cult of politics they set up for themselves, verse 13d. For both Israel in 723 BCE and Judah in 586 BC, there was a coming kingdom of the Messiah. Quote, a stone to strike and a rock to stumble over. Rock of ages cleft for me. Verse 14b. The exiles and historical events are all related to the rock of ages, to whom, capital letter, we all should be cleaving. See the final kingdom of the Messiah as a rock in Daniel 2. Jerusalem was to suffer, quote, many will fall on them, end of quote. And then they will fall and be broken the inhabitants snared and caught in history many times. Verse 15, many times. For the remnant seed there is a message. Bind the testimony, seal the law among the disciples. Verse 16. Wait for the Lord, who is hiding his face from the house of Jacob. Look eagerly for him. Verse 17. Isaiah, as a remnant seed is with the mission, his wife, his children, and him, quote, are for signs and wonders in spiritual Israel, end of quote. And this mission was given, quote, from the Lord of hosts, angels, who dwells on heavenly Mount Zion, verse 18. The problem with the remnant weed are continued. They consult mediums, spiritism, and whisper and mutter. But the remnant seed consult God, verse 19. The remnant weed goes to ancestral graves to speak to the dead, but Isaiah says that the remnant seed goes to God to speak to the living God, verse 19b. Remember, if you don't pray to God every day, you play with Satan and you basically consult spiritism. If you say, oh no, I just follow my own mind, your own mind plus Satan, which subconscious you don't know, is helping you. You need to get Satan away from you, and the only way is pray to God. The remnant seed follows the law and the testimony. Wow. Law, testimony. 10 Commandments, spirit of prophecy. Verse 20. This is how you know true religion. If they do not speak according to the word, the law, including the Saturday Sabbath, keeping command, and testimony, including the Gospels about Christ's substitutionary death for our salvation, if they don't keep that testimony, it is because they have no dawn. Verse 20b. The remnant weed will have hard times in the time of trouble. Quote, they will pass through the land. Quote, hard pressed and famished. End of quote. And when they are hungry, they will curse their rulers and also God. Quote, as they face upward. End of quote, verse 21. Since God is going to send plagues during this time to fall on the remnant weed and evil ones, but not the remnant seed. They will look to the earth at the second coming of Christ at the end of time of trouble, and behold distress and darkness, the gloom of anguish, and driven away into darkness. End of quote. The fatal result of the weed of the remnant. Verse 22. Let's pray. Dear God, the remnant seed and weed exist in our day and age, but we wish not to be part of the weed. Grant that our faith is established, our consultation is you, our standing is with Christ, our advocate, and the plagues coming will have no effect on us. Amen.